Hello, welcome back. We are in Japan and we wanted to do a recap of our second destination, which is Oita Prefecture in southern Japan. And we're going to be sharing more of our perspective about as Black women, immersing ourselves in a rich cultural history that is uninterrupted in juxtaposition to our own growing up in the United States. So we're focusing on a cultural immersion retreat that we did. And we started by taking our plane from Tokyo. And
Mm-hmm.
something happened that seemed very natural to us, but people told us it was not very natural at all. So you want to start with that?
Yes. Upon sitting down in our plane seats, we were seated next to this elderly Japanese woman, and she started a conversation with us. And I think for us growing up as Black girls, it's like every older woman is like your grandma, right, or your auntie. There's that community feel where all the women in the family and all the women outside the family, they are an integral part of your life, whether it's for a long time or a short time. It's like everybody's your auntie, everybody's your grandmother, right? So for us, that wasn't a huge deal. It was very sweet. It was very
Oh,
endearing.
that she actually started talking to
Oh, but
us
she started talking to us um,
and opening up.
and opening up. So she was sitting next to Portia. So she was sitting next to Portia. I was on the other side of Portia, so I couldn't hear the entire
Well,
conversation.
I'll cool it a
Yeah.
little.
Hmm.
So, what was unique is people said that, it was very rare for a Japanese grandmother to just like open up and want to start talking with us. But I very quickly started to use Google Translate, and just as fast as we could translate, she just
Hmm.
kept talking. And she was telling us about her owning a izakaya. She said, "But I'm getting old now." She's talking about visiting her son. She brought out pictures of
Mm.
her grandchildren, and she gestured for us to take her photo, which was like, okay, you want to take a picture with us? We'll
Yeah.
take a picture with you.
Hmm.
She wanted to know where we were heading and like write it down and like show us her writing it down in English,
Yeah, and she gave us a sutra.
which we
Yeah.
also heard was a very big deal. So we were
Mhm.
very honored to have
Mhm.
had that moment. So
Mhm.
that was our ride over. And when we landed in Oita, we were picked up by,
Yodo-san.
yes,
Yodo-san.
Yodo-san is the host of well, first of all, he's a monk at the Gyateji Temple, which has been around since 1346, and it's been in his family for three generations.
Mhm.
And so he and his family are the host of Buppezen Retreat, and it's
Mhm.
located in the town of Hiji, which
Mhm.
means
Elbow.
so we've been spending a lot of time just thinking about like what is the elbow function in our lives? Like how can
Mhm.
we reflect on this? Why are we here? And
Mhm.
what I realized is I think of myself a lot of the times as like a networking connector,
Mhm.
right? So I help
Mhm.
connect people to resources. For example, I might help someone find therapy, but I'm not a therapist.
Right. Right.
So it was a reminder to me to not overfunction. And you
Mhm.
had a cool story related to an injury that you had.
Oh yeah. February, January, that was like a hard time of the year for me. And one of the reasons is because I got bursitis or tennis elbow. And so my elbow actually became painfully inflamed. Not because I was out there, like on the courts, like doing stuff, right? It was just my home workspace is not ergonomically correct or friendly. And so the way I was working and situating my elbow just got me in trouble. But it was really painful actually.
So what did it mean for you to be in a town called Elbow? Like what was that reminder to you of?
It was almost like a full circle moment of healing in a way.
Yeah.
Whereas like in January, February, that was one of the many things
Yeah.
that was just not right.
Yeah.
But then, several months later, I'm in a place called Elbow where it's a healing space for me.
Perfect.
And so I think we can kind of segue into
Yeah.
the things that we did.
Sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, so we had this metaphor of like protecting our elbow, not overusing ourselves, not
Hmm.
overworking. Okay.
Oh, wait, fun fact about the elbow,
Hmm.
right? It pivots, but it does not move.
Meaning if your arm is like in place,
Hmm.
your elbow, will help move your arm, but it doesn't
Hmm.
have to move itself. So we
Yeah.
can be still and unmoved while
Hmm.
we go about
Hmm.
things in our world, and other
Hmm.
people can move, but it doesn't mean that we need to.
Right.
Good job.
Hmm. Hmm.
All right, so let's get back to this. We chose to do a Zen Buddhism retreat,
Hmm.
and what we learned about Zen Buddhism, it very much centers being present. And so the
Hmm.
things that you do, there is no disconnection. So when we are
Hmm.
meditating, we gaze like a half gaze, we keep our eyes open, and we
Hmm.
breathe very slowly.
Yeah,
Medit
we don't move. That was hard for me
I'm sorry for both of us.
because
We were so sore.
we were sore. We were sitting cross-legged is the ideal way, but my body just don't
You
like
did your
to do
best.
that
You did
for
your
a lot.
best.
You did too.
I'm proud of you.
So sitting still, breathing through your nose, having your eye gaze, and that's
Yeah.
another thing when we think of meditation, we always think of our eyes closed, but
It was
then
hard.
you have to keep your eyes open,
Yeah.
and you sit on like a focal point. The important part of that too is just really being one with nature
Right.
and breathing through your nostrils as well too,
Right.
and that can be a challenge as well. So remembering all these things. Mm-hmm.
So the idea of being present also extends to how we do food. We'll talk about that a little
Mm-hmm.
bit later.
Mm-hmm.
We were always taught to learn by doing. So any task we were
Mm-hmm.
doing, we would ask Yodo how, and he's like,
Mm-hmm.
"Oh, just do, just do." And then the moment you start doing it, he's like, "No, this way, this way." So
Right.
you have to learn to let go of this attachment to being right, which is very
Mm-hmm.
hard for Westerners because we want to know the right way and do the right way.
Mm-hmm.
So we had to notice we're flustered, let go of
Mm-hmm.
that moment, and just get back to being present.
Mm-hmm.
And then another thing that was, well, we'll talk about. No, we talk about this now. Chopsticks,
So, okay, the
bane of our
thing
existence.
with the Zen Buddhism, or I don't know if it's just with Zen or
I
it's
don't
just
know.
with Japanese culture, but I think
Very
it's yeah,
specific chopsticks.
specificity. Well, specificity with everything,
Yes.
but specificity with chopsticks and where they're placed on the table, um, and even how you use them when you're eating.
So we never had the right chopsticks.
Yeah, so we get what we thought were the right chopsticks to set the table.
Yeah. And then they'd be like, stop that.
And then it's like, no, those
Yeah.
aren't the right ones. Yeah. And even how you place your chopsticks after you're eating, right? So you don't want to keep them in the bowl. You have to place them outside of your eating dish as well too. So,
So we're going to get into a couple of more topics. So
mm-hmm,
the first day we had the culture shock. Of 6 guests sharing one restroom. So we
mm-hmm,
kind of had a little mini breakdown. We had to like kind of sit down. And this is one of the points where we talked about like traveling in this way is hard. I know we look like we're having fun when we're doing these videos, but
mm-hmm,
we have a lot of hard moments you guys don't see.
mm-hmm,
And so just like adjusting and saying, okay, this is where we are right now. What is the, what am
mm-hmm,
I here for?
mm-hmm,
And I did my adjustment by going into the restroom and just praying a prayer of gratitude, just being grateful,
yeah,
right? Oh, look at this, look at that. I'm grateful for this and that. And it just kind
mm-hmm,
of shifted me.
mm-hmm,
So let's talk quickly about our schedule for the day when we were
mm-hmm,
there.
mm-hmm.
So every morning we would start with Zen meditation.
650.
Correct. So that would be for an hour. And
Mm-hmm.
then we would have cultural activities in the morning.
Oh wait, hold on. Zen meditation, come back for breakfast, which was rice porridge with seaweed. And I think towards the end we got a lovely treat, umeboshi plum to put into our rice porridge, and so I actually liked it.
I liked it too, but it
Yeah,
was a very small amount of food. I
yeah,
keep joking that it was 30 calories. And so after a couple of days, I was like, your girl needs some options here.
yeah.
So
I and
Yoda was very responsive.
but I think for I kind of understood throughout the course of this day why that was the approach because it was definitely you eat like a pauper, a prince, and a king throughout the day.
Yeah.
So breakfast was very, 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 very simple. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So we definitely we were going to get more into the food, but we're going to
Yeah.
okay. So we have cultural activities that we did every day.
Mm-hmm.
And so we did calligraphy with Yodo's wife.
Oh, Shinto? No. What was it called?
Shibutsu? No.
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 Calligraphy. We did calligraphy.
Calligraphy.
It's
Okay.
okay. With his wife. And it was beautiful because we had this charcoal piece that we were given and we mixed it with oil and we made our own
Water.
ink. Water, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Mixed with water. Sorry, guys, we're trying to go as quickly as we can. We have a lot to cover, and I know that YouTube videos should stay under 17 minutes, so we're trying to do as quickly as we can. But the calligraphy was beautiful. We have some pictures that we can share with you guys.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember what your Japanese name was?
Child of Light.
Child of Light, and mine was Justice because we looked up the meaning of our names in English
Mm-hmm.
and then they created characters for us.
Mm-hmm.
So we got to draw those and they really let us draw for like hours. So I was really
And
impressed with that.
it is a lot harder than it
Yeah.
looks. There's a rhythm to it,
Yeah.
and there's a specificity to it as well too. So yeah.
So then we did tracing the sutra, which is
Mhm.
equally as challenging. And we're not going in any particular order for this. Every day
Mhm.
was a different activity, but
Mhm.
I personally was going really fast. So if you think of the characters that you see in Japanese, and at first I was trying to go fast and it just
Mhm.
looked awful. So
Mhm.
then I was trying to go slow and actually remember the brush techniques that she had taught us.
Oh, and then me, however, I was going too slow. And then Yodo-san came around. He was like, "No, faster, go, go." But that's the Zen way,
But
right?
Marla also does a really good job of photography. So she's like, let me pause to take a video. So
I was.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So next thing we'll talk about is the tea ceremony, which was done by
Hmm.
Yodo-san's mother, who's
Hmm.
been doing it for 50 years.
And she still considers herself a student.
Right.
And she had her apprentice with her
Yes.
who had been doing it for
10
10
years.
years. Hmm.
Everything was so specific.
And intentional.
Yes. And so
Mm-hmm.
move here, move there, do this, move that.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to clean the bowl out now, move it to this position. Okay, look on this side. Okay, look on that side, because every
Mm-hmm.
season has different bowls. And so you want to look at which bowls you have, different
Mm-hmm.
flowers, different calligraphy in the back.
Mm-hmm.
There was a matcha that they made with the whisk, and we
Oh,
had a
yeah.
little dessert.
Mm-hmm.
And no one told me we were going to have dessert. So I just finished eating everything I could for lunch. And
Mm-hmm.
so then they were like, okay, you have to
Yeah.
eat this. And I'm like, oh, stuffing my mouth.
One note that we learned about green tea here, it's not sweetened, right? But the point of that is because you have something sweet to eat with
First.
it, right? So you're eating something sweet,
And then you have the bitter.
then you have like the
Yeah.
earthy.
I
So
want to take that back with us.
oh,
Yeah.
absolutely,
Okay.
yeah.
So I know we have limited time, but the thing we have to do justice to is the kimono dressing. I have never
Mm,
felt so fussed over in my life, including my wedding day.
mm-hmm.
We
I
were
don't know what that's like yet.
we were whisked into this room and we had like 4 women,
Four
and then there
women.
were 5 dressers, and
Oh, right. So there were
each
four of
woman,
us. There were four of us there for the kimono to
yeah.
get dressed, and there were five elderly Japanese women who were dressing us.
So each of them takes one person each. They look at me and they're like, let's team up. And I'm like, what's happening right now? And so they dressed us for like the next 30 minutes. And I thought it was just me, man. They were like making corsets one tie at a time. They kept bringing things over and tying it
They're
tight, but they did it
they're
to everybody.
it's amazing, but the kimonos that you see,
So
um,
much
it's a lot of work, but
Yeah.
there's so much even underneath the kimonos
Yeah.
that you don't see, but that what
Yeah.
it makes the vision.
But we got to pick out our own kimonos, and they
Hmm.
were definitely beautiful. And we just felt, this is something I had concerns about, making sure we weren't doing cultural appropriation, but
Hmm.
the way that we were embedded lovingly within this community, and we did
Hmm.
life with the temple, and they made it
Hmm.
clear to us like, this is something we want to do
Hmm.
with you and for you. And then they even paraded us around the town, introduced us to their friends.
Like,
So
oh my
it was
gosh,
fantastic.
listen. So we got to walk around on the kimonos, and we just
And
happened to
those
be
little
by this
shoes.
and the little shoes,
Yeah.
and the socks,
Yeah.
and we just so happened to be walking past a school that was getting out, and the kids were like, "Hey,
Yeah.
hi, how?" I mean,
Trying out their English.
yeah, trying out
So
their
super
English.
cute.
Yeah, it was very very
So that was
cute.
like the high for me, because I mean, you just feel so beautiful and worthy that
Mm-hmm.
someone would do that for you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so very quickly, we did Pilates, and our instructor was probably one of the best Pilates instructors I've ever seen in my life.
Gave us a workout.
And she was doing it in Japanese the whole time, but her
Mm-hmm.
technique was incredible. And it
Mm-hmm.
just made me feel like, from a wellness perspective, the
Mm-hmm.
temple is really the center of the community,
Mm-hmm.
because you have these people coming in to do their prayers. And I forgot to cover very quickly at the beginning of Zen meditation. You come in and you do an incense offering
Oh
and you
yeah.
pray, and
Mm-hmm.
then you go out and do your mat, and then you look out over the garden. So we'd
Mm-hmm.
have people join us for that sometimes. People
Mm-hmm.
joined us for tracing of the sutra, they joined us for Pilates. So I just really appreciated that.
And there were a few times when they joined us afterwards to eat and
And we got
have
to have
tea. Hmm.
conversations. So that
Hmm.
cultural enrichment of talking
Hmm.
to students about the culture.
Hmm.
So we've got about 3 minutes left. We've got a ton still to tell you about. So we're going to do the world's quickest recap of probably Marla's favorite, which is Hayotan Onsen. So tell us really quickly what you did there.
Okay, so spring, natural springs, right? Um, hot, cold, plunging. The water is treated, some like with chlorination,
Minerals,
maybe, and minerals
minerals.
and things like that.
Yeah.
Amazing for the skin, absolutely amazing for the skin. Amazing food as well too.
So we had a
Mhm.
nice day there, but think
Mhm.
about like waterfalls outdoor, but everyone
Mhm.
has to be nude once again, as we told you guys.
Yeah.
But it was an amazing, beautiful experience. Lots of
Mhm.
baths to try out.
Mhm.
Okay, so we want to close with talking about the food and the community because those are like two really central elements from a culture perspective.
Mhm.
So our favorite was fried chicken, and I know y'all are gonna fight us on this, but this had to be some of the best fried chicken we
It
ever had
was
in our
delicious.
lives, and I'm
Mhm.
including the Black culture.
It was
Okay, they
delicious.
knew their chicken, and the monk was getting it with that chicken. It was amazing.
And we were in the prefecture where like tempura, fried stuff, fried chicken. I guess that's like the best prefecture for that.
Well, everybody's gonna say that the
But
best.
okay, yeah.
Okay, so we had ramen. We did a sushi night, which was
Mhm.
very wild because we weren't told what we were doing, and everything had to be
Mhm.
very specific. And just when we were about to get fully exasperated, he brings out this large sashimi tray, and we're like, "It was all worth it." So we had. Now we know how
Yeah.
to make hand rolls.
Yeah. Like the
Um,
cones. Mhm.
yes,
Mhm.
udon noodle making. What did you get to do?
Oh my god, I got to stamp my noodles. I felt like I
Like
was at
with
church.
your feet,
Yes,
okay?
I felt like I was doing a praise dance on the udon dough with my feet.
So we knead it first, and then we put it in a bag, and then we put it in the bag, and then we stand on the floor, and we like stomp, stomp, stomp. And so
Yes,
making our own udon noodles and then putting it through the press was just like key experience. Okay.
hand turned.
Yes. So I think a highlight for both of us was just how warmly we felt taken in by the
Mhm.
family, by the other people there. Most of the house guests were from the US. We had one
Mhm.
from Australia who's like our new bestie now. Hey,
Violet.
Violet. So we like washed our clothes together,
Mhm.
and I had this sweatshirt that was kind of red, and I kind of tied out everybody's
She
clothes.
tied up my clothes, y'all.
And they
But
came
it's
out and
okay.
they were like, oh, we
But
love
it's fine.
it.
It was a beautiful mistake. It was an
Thank God
application,
you
and
guys loved it.
then right,
Right?
we
Just be
had to let
present,
it
go with
go.
it.
We had to let it go.
So that is our recap for now. The Soft Life Reset has a lot of hard times to it, so we're going to go into that later. But we are smiling and getting through it all. We are going to do our next recap about our third destination in Japan. We'll tell you what that is soon. But we just want to say thank you so much to Buppezen Retreat, to Yodo-san, to
Mm.
Kiko, to
Mm.
Eileen. Thank you so much for taking us into your community. We loved and adored you, and we have so much respect for you.
Mhm.
And we will be saying itadakimasu when we eat.
Itadakimasu.
And arigato for now, and
Arigato.
sayonara.
Sayonara.